Please rise in body or spirit for our gathering hymn, number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Good morning. My name is Megan Cody, and I'm a member of this congregation. Kinsley Yule will light our chalice. Please join me in our chalice lighting words found in your order of service. We light this chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, to remind us to connect in spirituality and service, to care for each other and the world, and to create loving community. Today, for our time of all ages, I will be reading a story for you from our library called Uncle Willie and the Soup Kitchen by Diane DeSalvo Ryan. Talk to me, says Uncle Willie when he picks me up from school. I go down the steps like a house on fire. Race you to the corner, I yell without stopping. Uncle Willie pretends to wobble on his string bean legs. He makes me laugh so hard that he gets to the corner before I do. While Mom's at work, Uncle Willie's job is to keep an eye on me. This is fine with me, and it's just fine with Uncle Willie. But during the day while I'm at school, my Uncle Willie has another job. He works at the soup kitchen. We fed a lot of people today, says Uncle Willie. Spaghetti and meatballs. Good thing the bakery truck stopped by to give us extra bread. Uncle Willie checks his pocket and sprinkles crumbs onto the sidewalk. I check my pocket too and pull out my paper telescope. Why do you work there anyway? I ask, eyeballing Uncle Willie. It's important, Uncle Willie tells me. Sometimes people need help. Way up the block, I hear the can man's clangety cart piled high with empty cans he finds in our neighborhood. My mom says he cashes them in for money at the supermarket. Whenever I see the can man, he is pushing his shopping cart in the street. Today he's on the sidewalk, though, moving his clangety cart right toward us. Let's go, I whisper to Uncle Willie, but I think he doesn't hear me. How's business, Frank? Uncle Willie hollers. One more block and I'm done for the day, the can man hollers back. Uncle Willie picks up an empty can and tosses it into the cart. 2 points for the basket, the can man says. Then he hunches back over his cart to give it one long push. I listen to the sound of those rattly wheels, clangety bump, until they are far, far away. Since when do you know that can man? I ask Uncle Willie. Since Frank came to eat at the soup kitchen, he says. But why doesn't Frank eat at his own house, I ask. Doesn't he have a place to live? Uncle Willie takes my hand and rocks it high and low. I never asked Frank where he lived, says Uncle Willie. In the soup kitchen, you only have to be hungry. When Mom walks me to school the next morning, I see a woman sleeping on the park bench. She looks lonely, I say. I feel kind of sad when I see her. Mom says there are a lot of lonely people these days. That's why I'm proud of Uncle Willie. He's doing something to help. But I wonder what it's like to work inside a soup kitchen. I mean, Uncle Willie goes there almost every single day, and I've never even gone with him once. Mom hands me my milk money and scoots me up the front steps. Why don't you ask Uncle Willie to take you next Monday, says Mom. Remember, you have a day off from school. All set, asks Uncle Willie bright and early Monday morning. All set, I say. I check my pocket and pull out my telescope. Uncle Willie grabs his cap and stuffs his pockets with bread. Mom kisses me goodbye and tells us both to keep out of trouble. The soup kitchen is not far from where I live, but it feels like a very long way. We pass my school, we pass the supermarket, the drugstore, the bakery, the laundry. When we get to Mr. Anthony's meat market, I am dragging my feet. Let's stop and see if Mr. Anthony has anything for us today, says Uncle Willie. Mr. Anthony's door has a little bell on top that rings whenever it opens. Hello already, Uncle Willie hollers. Hello yourself, Mr. Anthony says. Have I got something special for you? When Mr. Anthony comes out from the back, he hands Uncle Willie a lumpy brown bag. He gives me a brown bag too. Chicken for the soup, Mr. Anthony tells us. Food for a feast, says Uncle Willie. The little bell rings again when the door closes, and I wave goodbye through the big front window. When we turn the corner, Uncle Willie points to a small brick building. It looks old and kind of run down from the outside. Here we are, he says. A woman opens the big white door. Good morning, Shanta, says Uncle Willie. A very good morning, says Shanta, smiling. You brought us a helper today. I shake Shanta's hand and follow Uncle Willie inside. The soup kitchen is small and bright. The 4 huge soup pots steaming on the stove make the whole place smell delicious. There are posters on the wall that say, "Have a nice day and no smoking, please." Look, I say, lunchroom tables just like my school. But what's that high chair doing there? Uncle Willie takes my bag and puts it down on the table. Little children come here too. Now let me introduce you all around, says Uncle Willie. First I meet a cat. This is Underfoot, Uncle Willie tells me. Underfoot works the night shift down in the basement. And over there is Brother Mike. Brother Mike opens the lumpy bags from Mr. Anthony's store and turns them upside down. Chickens, he says, looking over at us. That's great. Thanks for picking them up. A man at the double sink is washing a big silver bowl. And this is George, Uncle Willie says. If it wasn't for George, we'd all be in hot water. Uncle Willie ties on an apron and helps me tie one too. Now let's get to work already. I watch Uncle Willie cut the celery short and skinny and split the tomatoes in 4s. He chops the potatoes and parsley and onions and tosses some into each soup pot. He smiles at me and jiggles a carrot. Perfect. Uncle Willie hoots and finishes off the string beans. Will you help me sort through the fruits and vegetables? Shanta asks. The market gave us so much fruit that we can make a salad today. I separate the fruit and put it in the sink to wash. While Shanta slices, I mix the fruit inside the big silver bowl with a wooden spoon. Everything comes extra big around here. George walks over from the sink and opens a really big can of peanuts. He says he wouldn't mind one bit if he had some extra help. I put 1 big bowl of peanuts, 1 big plate of sliced cheese, 1 big dish of butter, and 2 big baskets of bread on every lunchroom table. I'm hungry, I say, when Brother Mike gives every pot just 1 more stir. Break time, he says. Help yourself to a bowl of soup. Sit down already, Uncle Willie tells me, and make yourself uncomfortable. I pour a little bit of my soup into a cup for Underfoot. Chicken and vegetable soup, I say, my favorite. I look around at all the empty chairs, but what if there's not enough soup, I ask. Uncle Willie waves his hands. It's just like magic, he tells me. There's always a little bit more. He pulls something out of his pocket. This little clicker will count how many people come here today, so then we can make enough food for tomorrow. When I'm finished eating, I peek outside and see a long line of people from the soup kitchen door to the corner. I used to be out there on those lines, says George, but now I'm in here helping. I stare out the window and reach for Uncle Willie. Are all those people homeless? I whisper. Is George homeless too? Uncle Willie leans a little closer and says, George rents a room in a building nearby, but some of the people have no place to live. If they're here, they're hungry, and we're here to fill up the bowls. Brother Mike ladles the steaming soup into the bowls and places one on every tray. Shanta dishes out the fruit cups and puts them next to the bowls. When the first trays are ready with soup and fruit, Uncle Willie yells out, lunchtime. We let the big white door swing open and the first few people rush in at once. The soup is nice and hot right from the pot, hollers Uncle Willie. He says hello to just about everyone who comes in. And how are you, Double Jim? Asks Uncle Willie. Double Jim points to his belly and laughs. I'm twice as hungry and 2 times as big, he says. There's so many people pushing in at once that I can't see inside anymore. Some of the guests try to shake my hand, but I stand stiffly against the door. He's got a day off from school, announces Uncle Willie, keeping his hand on my shoulder. So he came by to see where I work. There's Frank, the can man, I whisper. Hello there, Frank, says Uncle Willie, showing him the boxes of fruits and vegetables. Help yourself, we have extra today. In no time, the soup kitchen is full. Shanta fills up the fruit cups one after the other while Brother Mike fills up the bowls. All of a sudden, it sounds to me as if everyone's talking at once. People go up to the counter and say, this soup is great, can I have seconds? You gave her more chicken than you gave me, but I was in line first. We need more bread on our table, please. We want more butter on ours, more cheese on ours. I watch the guests go in and out, first hungry, then full, first hungry, then full. Come on in, calls Uncle Willie. George is walking back and forth. He picks up the dirty dishes from the counter and carries them back to the sink. I can hear the soup spoons going clink, clink, clink. A woman shuffles by and stuffs her pocket with bananas. She looks a little bit like the woman I saw sleeping on the park bench. I hope so. I hope she comes to eat at the soup kitchen. It's not so lonely here. Before I know it, the line outside the soup kitchen is gone, and so is all the fruit inside Shanta's silver bowl. A few of the guests stay to help us all clean up. I hold the dustpan steady while Double Jim sweeps a pile for me to scoop. When Uncle Willie and I are ready to leave, we shake hands with all the helpers. Brother Mike opens the big front door. Come again anytime, he says. We can always use the extra help. Thanks again for the soup, I hollered to everyone else in the back. Underfoot liked it too. On the way home, Uncle Willie shows me the counter. We fed 121 people today. That's a lot of citizens. I pull my paper telescope out of my pocket and eyeball Uncle Willie. Uncle Willie looks like one big smile. Laughing, he picks up an empty trash can and hands it to me. I take the can and head for the trash. I turn, I fake, I jump, I shoot. Talk to me, says Uncle Willie, and he hoots as I score 2 more points for the basket. The end. Welcome to worship. It was a long time for all ages. Welcome to worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro. Unitarian Universalists believe that each person has a trustworthy relationship with the Spirit with the holy, with the source of all life, with what some call God, though we name it and know it differently from one another. And we believe that because we are interconnected, nobody is free until we all are free. So we strive to build beloved community here on earth in our fellowship with one another and in our work for justice. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Our ministry team here at UUCG is Cindy Dillard, our Director of Children's and Youth Ministry, Michael Hill, our Director of Membership and Operations, Colin McRae, our Director of Music, Logan Hamilton, our Technology Coordinator, and Reverend Sadie Lansdale, our Minister, who is out today. We are pleased to welcome John Kernodle, local Zen Buddhist, to speak with us again. And also we have some guest musicians. Well, we have Chelsea Morrow as guest musician and Steve Andrews today on guitar. Please silence your cell phones so they don't join in making the joyful noise. And please join me in our church covenant. A covenant contains the promises we make to one another in response to the great gift of living, holding ourselves to these holy aspirations. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro, do covenant to promote a search for personal meaning, respecting the individual truth in a community process of quest. Speak and act with caring, courtesy, and love, thereby maintaining emotional, physical, and spiritual safety for all. Support UUCG and denominational efforts with our resources. Combat injustice while promoting equality. Nurture our children on their spiritual journeys. Hold ourselves to this covenant, especially during times of conflict and disagreement. Please join in our opening hymn in your teal hymnal, number 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
And
you're joining us in the sanctuary, won't you wave hello to everyone joining us online? If you're online, go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. If you're in person, let's greet our neighbors.
When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong.
How beautiful it is to be together. We gather in gratitude this morning, turning our hearts to thanks and praise for the gift of living, in the presence of the Spirit that animates all life, and in the knowledge that we are always connected to all that is, all that has been, and all that will be. During these next few minutes of silence, you can focus on something you're grateful for, or someone you're remembering, especially today, or just the sensation of your chair supporting you. Will you find a comfortable place in your seat and take a few easy breaths as we settle into our shared silence together? What echoes in your heart? You're invited to offer it up to the holy and lay it down in community in this sacred time together. If you're online, this is the time to share your joys and sorrows with one another in the chat. If you're in person and you have a milestone you would like added to our prayers, you can fill out a yellow card which the ushers will collect from you. If there's a joy in your heart, place a plant from our grounds in the vase. If you have a sorrow, place a stone in the bowl. Light a candle of prayer and presence for someone you're holding close to you. We have masks in the back. If you're not sure how you're feeling, or maybe you're feeling a little antsy, there are pipe cleaners in the back to fidget with and mandalas to color, or you may have brought needlework that you can feel free to do. In church, we practice becoming more fully human. This is our time to take stock of how we arrive here and to take what we need, knowing that the table is set for us all. Will you join me in prayer and presence? First, we name aloud or in the chat those people on our hearts, living or dead, near or far, that our community might hold them in love. We have some joys and concerns today. Ken Williams says an 84-year-old friend, Frank Smith, fell and broke his hip as he finished a 10K race. Our prayers of compassion and healing are with Frank and with all of those who care about him. Someone says, my dear friend's mother had a stroke last week, and she was able to fly over to Estonia to be with her as she recovers. Our prayers of healing and strength for this person. Ken Knight says, my friend Don Pasillo is in church today after a stay in the hospital. We're happy for Don's presence here and wish him well as he returns and recovers from his stay in the hospital. Zoe shares, my mom is coming home. Prayers of joy for your mom's homecoming, Zoe. Viviana says, I'm going to see Wicked with my mom and Gigi. Prayers of joy and excitement are with you. Manessa Green Jewel says, it was such a joy to have Rod Swanger and Carolyn Cook visit yesterday, who lovingly shared their vast knowledge of plants found on our property. I learned so much, but the company was even better. We share your joy, Manessa. Thank you for sharing that. Elizabeth and Jennifer Buckner say, 2 weeks ago, me and my mom did a horse show. Our prayers of joy are with you. Tish Gunn says, I give thanks for this beautiful day and this beautiful season as we prepare for the changing seasons. Mom is finishing rehab at Hinland Heartland. Wish her well. We wish your mom well, Tish, and share your joy in this. Someone writes, marking the end of Banned Books Week and holding the librarians who have waged the good fight. We hold those librarians and everyone who cares about banned books in our hearts and in strength. Nora Bird shares joy about the UU turnout at the No Kings rally. Spread all along Wendover, we proclaimed our faith in the democratic process. Our joy in the fire of compassion and commitment is with you, Nora. Caroline Cottom says, I am grateful for the beautiful day of people coming together all over the country to celebrate our humanity and deep wishes for a more loving and kind government here and around the world. We share your joy and celebrate with you.
Would you please join me in prayer? May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our worship this morning and this community's merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear words. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth. Those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers always bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in this world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find their power, and may people think first of benefiting each other. For as long as space it remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may we too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. Spirit of life and love, God of many names and beyond all naming, source of all, we pray this morning. Amen.
When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong.
Will you now join in the children's recessional as the youth are invited back? Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. To the Buddha, to the holy teachings, and to the spiritual community of fellow path travelers, I turn for refuge. Of all the tenets in Zen Buddhism that have filtered into the popular imagination, perhaps the most well-known is the simple three-word phrase, "Be here now." Be present and attentive in all things. Do not be distracted by what might happen or be bogged down by the memory of what has already passed. It is, in essence, the foundation of all meditative practice across Buddhism. Mindfulness practice, far from the mental health cure-all pitched by what has become a billion-dollar industry, is about bringing attention to the present moment to realize how unsatisfactory conditions really are. This confrontation with the present moment is the platform from which all the rest of the work of Buddhism, of achieving liberation from suffering and awakening to the oneness of all beings, begins. For those of us living in a consumerist capitalist society focused on consumption and the unending chase of profit, the call to be here now can seem quite daunting. It's no wonder that for many people, the prospect of sitting quietly, counting the breath, can seem profoundly uncomfortable or even way too daunting to even attempt. But it's called practice for a reason. We are training our minds to interpret the world in ways that run counter to societal pressures and norms. We are not being called to be here now solely on our meditation cushions, but in the entirety of our lives, from each breath to the next, even when we're performing mundane activities like walking, sweeping up, even cooking. Now, I mentioned that in our particular society, we face pressures that make being here now something of a hard sell, even on a good day. But even the Buddha lived in times of societal pressures and expectations. Let's not forget that the Buddha was born to a politically significant father and was expected to both rule and continue the family line. And when the Buddha actively renounced this role that he was expected to play, he knew he could not do it alone. I'm always particularly moved by the first act of the Buddha after his experience of enlightening. The sutras say it plainly. He went in search of his friends. The Buddha intuitively understood that only through strong bonds of community could the community of monks, the Sangha, make it, sustaining themselves only with the help of each other. And from the beginning, the assembly of monks and nuns have built and modeled their communities as both part of the fabric of the world around us while remaining detached and removed from at least some of those societal pressures. I'll admit the narrative is nowhere near as simple as clean as all that, and we could go down quite a rabbit hole on Buddhism's historical relationships with power structures, but at the very least, this is the monastic ideal within Buddhism. And within the monastic community, one of the most important roles is that of the head cook. In a training formula taught to child monks in Theravada Buddhism, which is found most commonly today in Southeast Asia, there is a numerical sequence that's chanted that gradually unpacks and explains reality from the most simple, basic truth to the most vast. Number 1 reads like this: all beings eat. In a very fundamental sense, the role of food is front and center, both in the practical necessity of keeping a community fed and in its core understanding of how the world works. As Buddhism spread, the role of the cook was maintained. Today, the head cook is a feature of a formal Buddhist monastic setting, but is particularly revered in Zen Buddhism. This is in no small part due to a seminal text written by one of the most influential figures of early Zen, the 13th century monk Eihai Dogen, or Dogen Zenji. Dogen was instrumental in bringing the teachings of Chinese Chan Buddhism to Japan, and he did so through basic cultural exchange, traveling to and learning from the great Chan teachers of his time in the process. But the thing that impressed him the most were the head cooks in the Chinese monasteries. Shortly after returning to Japan, he penned the text Instructions to the Cook, which uses the role and responsibilities of the head cook to point towards some of Zen's deepest truths. At first glance, the text looks like a formal, if broad, instruction manual for the head cook, or tenzo. While it doesn't give precise measurements or anything that detailed, it goes through many of the standard Zen monastic codes relating to the office. You'll find instructions such as putting the mind of the way to work, serve carefully varied meals appropriate to each occasion, and thus allow everyone to practice without hindrance, and if the 6 flavors are not in harmony and 3 virtues lacking, then the tenzo is not truly serving the community. For our purposes, we need not get into the nitty-gritty of specific flavors and virtues, but one thing about these instructions becomes abundantly clear. The cook is being instructed to be fully present to the act of cooking. The very first of the monastic codes to cover the office of tenzo reads, "The tenzo functions as the one who makes offerings with reverence to the monks." Dogen makes it very clear that of the 6 leadership figures of any monastery, it is the cook whose role is the most vital for the daily functioning and well-being of the community. The text is not simply instructions of a practical or formal variety. Dogen Zenji's instructions use the office and responsibilities of the head cook to unpack and demonstrate a broad swath of core Zen teaching. In one passage, he concisely summarizes the importance of non-attachment through the work of the cook. He writes, "In preparing food, never view it from the perspective of usual mind or on the basis of feeling tones. Taking up a blade of grass, erect magnificent monasteries. Turn the wheel of reality within a grain of dust. If you only have wild grasses with which to make a broth, do not disdain them. If you have ingredients for a rich and creamy soup, do not be delighted. Where there is no attachment, there can be no aversion." There's a balance to the text. Repeated instructions for the cook to care for every single detail of the preparation of each meal, even when the tenzo has assistance, is balanced by imagery of sufficient means for magnificence, even with just the mundane. A single blade of grass becomes a treasure-filled monastery. A simple meal without fine ingredients is a meal fit for an assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The skilled tenzo, the text intimates over and over again, has everything in front of them to make a community-sustaining meal, even if all they have is a single grain of rice. One of my formational Buddhist teachers, the late Bernie Glassman, was fond of adding, "Because that's when you have no choice but to start using your imagination." In fact, what Dogen Zenji is repeatedly saying is, let the practice of preparing food be no different than the practice of zazen or meditation. Let the energy you bring to serving your community be the same energy of being here now. Come to understand that every role we fill is an opportunity to practice, to confront reality in the most immediate and intimate sense possible. We, potential head cooks, are not simply instructed to not despair over the quality and quantity of our materials, but in the same breath also to practice the coming and going of things as arising in the mind turning and displaying itself as things. Thus, the perfect head cook makes the daunting job that's never quite over seem effortless, because that head cook is never mentally elsewhere or physically distracted from each task at hand as it arises and falls away. And yet Dogen Zenji understood that the pressures of life don't vanish when you enter the monastery. The head cook is under extreme pressure to perform a vitally important role for the entire community. Even removed from the need to make a certain sales quota, to bring in enough clients, finish enough projects, and so on, we still live in a world where life is finite, expectations, stressful, and yes, everything eats. We've all been in jobs where we've taken shortcuts. We've all had nights where it's been easier to order takeout than prepare our own meals. That kind of mentality doesn't vanish just because you have a vibrant meditation session, though in that session you might find ways to avoid its snares. Practice needs something to sustain it. And for Dogen, what sustains the practice of the Tenzo, and by extension all practitioners in the spiritual community, are three qualities of heart. The first of these qualities is joyful heart. Providing offerings of food to a community of friends, all dedicated to walking their unique paths together, should be a joyous occurrence. Dogen writes that it is through approaching the teachings and practices with joy that the true meaning of those teachings and practices is truly grasped. When I read Dogen telling his reader to reflect joyfully on being born into a life capable of experiencing the bliss of practice as opposed to being born into a hellish condition or a shining life of overindulgence, I can't help but think of the horror comedy from a few years back, The Menu. It features as its central figure a luxury chef who, thanks to the demands of his increasingly cult-like wealthy fans, has lost the love of his craft. Apologies for spoilers, but the only character of the film to live at the end is the one character who makes the chef remember one last time the joy of making a simple cheeseburger. I first learned to love cooking, really love cooking, during the early months of the pandemic. I'm sure I'm not alone. My passions have cooled a little since then, but there is nothing quite like the joy that comes from adding a new ingredient at each step, watching a meal take shape from nothing more than your own attention and the work of your own hands. And it is in the joyful act of creating that Dogen introduces the second quality of heart necessary for any head cook worth their salt to cultivate: the parental heart. In Buddhism, we take refuge, as I did at the opening of these remarks, in what are known as the three treasures or the three jewels. These are the Buddha and his life, the holy teachings, and the spiritual community. The cook, in preparing meals to feed the spiritual community, helps maintain the ability of that community to continue living and sharing the teachings, which helps keep the project of the Buddha alive. And so Dogen writes that the parental heart cares for the three jewels as a parent cares for their child. He writes, "Their hearts cannot be understood by another. Only a parent can understand it. A parent protects their child from heat or cold before worrying about whether they themselves are hot or cold. This kind of care can only be understood by those who have given rise to it and realized only by those who practice it. This, brought to its fullest, is how you must care for water and rice as though they were your own children. Perhaps it's easier to imagine how one grain of rice could become a world-filling meal if one imagines loving that grain of rice like your own child. Finally, Dogen leaves us with the last heart necessary to cultivate what's needed to be a true tenzo: vast heart. Vast heart is that quality of heart that innately recognizes no distinction between things, no duality between you or me, this or that. Dogen writes of vast mind that it is like being able to see all the seasons as part of one movement and to understand seemingly different things primarily through their relation to each other, which includes both. Tempered with joy, shot through with love, this vastness is not empty nor bleak, but complex and beautiful, a chorus of countless parts interacting to form a harmonious whole. Without vastness, Dogen tells us, there can be no awakening. Dogen concludes his instructions to the cook by telling every member of the monastery to always cultivate these three hearts and their qualities. His instructions to the cook are instructions to all of us. I find myself reflecting on the meaning of community in times like these that often feel quite dark, dangerous, and scary. Those feelings make it easy to isolate, to cut corners, to coast by on the bare minimum, if that, to even treat life like a detached observer rather than an active participant. I'm confident anyone who has ever experienced depression knows exactly what I'm talking about. I contrast those feelings with how I felt observing yesterday's No Kings protests, not just locally, but across the country, and even in other parts of the world. There was defiance, and no doubt many were motivated to attend in part out of their fear for what is happening in this country. But what I saw mostly was joy. It was the joy of people not feeling so alone anymore. Some of my favorite photos and live streams came from the tiniest of small towns. In a small town, a crowd of over 100 is a big deal. People were happy. They were happy to be together, and the crowds were vast. The hard work is what comes next, letting that joy and that sense of vastness manifest into the work of caring for and nurturing the movements and communities around us, not just the organizers of this massive protest, but the groups that will form out of the connections made by those participating, and the work that folks who attended bring back to the communities they're already a part of. A parental heart is necessary to sustain the work ahead, and to ensure we do not lose sight of the joy and our vastness in the long, hard days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Dogen says that the work of the true head cook is the entirety of the practice of Buddhism distilled into one role. He calls us to become tenzos for our communities, to recognize that our actions, from cooking to protesting, can be practice. And they are best when they are treated like and become that practice. Too worked up to meditate? Take a breath, prepare a meal, paint a sign, go to a meeting, take a walk through your neighborhood, taking it in like it's the first time you've ever seen it. In doing so, we might just realize that even if all we have is that single grain of rice or a handful of seemingly disparate ingredients, we have what it takes to start the work of feeding everyone. To the Sangha, to the spiritual community, I say simply, the kitchen of human suffering and experience is waiting for us. Shall we cook? Oh, amen. Will you join us in singing hymn number 1032? Oh,
Skip that for now.
great, cool.
Hey, bear with us. We are going to go ahead and gather the offering. The offering this month, the plate is being shared with Pink Haven Coalition. Pink Haven Coalition is a collective of organizations and individuals who are committed to trans liberation and joy and to growing community defense, mutual aid, and alternative systems of care for gender diverse people. This is an opportunity to practice what sustains us and be here now. May our hearts be joyful, parental, and vast. The offering will now be collected and gratefully received.
Sometimes your life feels like a broken roller coaster, 1,000 useless moving parts. Sometimes you spend your nights too scared of getting closer, hiding out in the backseat of your car. You tell yourself it's raining, the clouds are in your head. You tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, before you lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Yeah, look up. Mondays aren't always bright. Some days you lose the fight. But life can be beautiful if you let it be. Tomorrow keeps taunting you with all kinds of mystery. It's a blank page for your poetry if you let it be. So don't tell yourself it's raining, the clouds are in your head. You tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, before you lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Yeah, look up. Look up. Hold on. Look up. Sometimes your life feels like a broken roller coaster, 1,000 useless moving parts. Look up. Do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees, yeah. Look up.
Will you join me in our awesome? Will you join me in our chalice extinguishing words? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. If you'd like to get more connected, whether you're with us in person or online, please fill out the contact form on our church website. If you're in person, stick around for after worship for a post-worship reflection led by me. The new member class this week is on membership and operations. It will be led by Lonnie Hauk and Michael Hill, and it meets in Reverend Sadie's office. We'll take a few minutes for people to gather coffee and snacks and then get started with the reflection and the new member class. A couple of other announcements. There's an all-church grounds day coming up on October 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Join us to spruce up our UUCG grounds. There will also be a gathering for Samhain on November 1st for the Witching Hour group for UU witches and those who are witch curious. So please join us here, I believe, at 5:30. And I think that's it for the announcements.
Our words ring out through space beyond the stars. Their virtue and compassion echo back from all the many beings. We recite our prayers, our invocations, and our mantras for renewal of the Buddha mind in fields and forests, homes and streets throughout the world. In grateful thanks to all our many guides along this ancient way, may we prepare the meals we need to walk this path together. Om. Amen.
You may place your hands over your heart for a benediction hymn from this house.